Welcome to Let's Talk Horses. I'm your host, Jason Vance. Joining me is Laura Kinney, a program associate at Rutgers University, and we're going to talk about soil testing. And Laura, why would a horse owner want to test their soil?
Well, any horse owner that wants to use their pasture as a source of nutrition, you want it to be the best nutrition you can feed your horse. And we all know that when you're feeding your horse, they need the correct balance of nutrients. You know, your protein, your energy, your vitamins and minerals. Well, in order to grow as well as it can, your grass also needs the correct balance of nutrients. So by testing your soil, you're going to find out what's in the soil and what you need to add in order to have a really nice stand of grass to feed your horse.
Which there's some environmental concerns with phosphorus and nitrogen and the levels in your soil. I'm sure that comes into play as well, right?
Exactly. That's another really big concern when it comes to fertilizing. A lot of people will fertilize every year, nitrogen, phosphorus, the lime every year without actually taking any tests to find out what's in the soil. We know that nitrogen and phosphorus are huge concerns for water quality, and we're actually starting to see some legislation across the East Coast, at least, probably coming in different areas in watersheds. It's really a big deal. So if we soil test before we apply our fertilizers, we can tell, okay, maybe this field doesn't need quite as much nitrogen this year, maybe this field doesn't need quite as much phosphorus.
Which, as far as applying fertilizers, in addition to being able to figure out which field needs what, tell us a little bit about some of the different possibilities and the, I guess, better environmental ways of applying different types of fertilizer.
Well, one very popular way is applying manure, actually. We see this in crop farming a lot. Animal manure has a lot of nutrients that the plants need to grow. You can also use synthetic fertilizers. You can go out and get one for a specific nutrient that you're having trouble with. Say you're low in zinc or something like that. You can get a specific fertilizer just for that. The other thing that you need to be aware of when you are soil testing and applying fertilizer is that every crop you want to grow has different nutrient needs, just like a foal would have a different nutrient need from an older horse. So, grass has a different profile than what alfalfa might need. So there's a lot of things to keep in mind, but when you submit your soil sample to a lab that's actually going to come up with all these nutrient levels for you, they can make recommendations based on what you tell them you're growing.
Now, as far as collecting a sample, I've heard a lot of different things about testing soil in row crop farms, but when you're taking samples in your horse pasture, how exactly should you go about doing that?
Well, there's two very common ways. The first way is to use a soil core tester. It's a long piece of metal. It's about an inch across, I'd say, and you just shove it into the ground as far as you can. You pull it up, and there's going to be, an inch-wide core of soil that goes in as deep as you could get the tester in. And what you're going to want to do is walk in a zigzag through your fields and take, depending on the size of the field, 10 to 20 samples, and you're going to mix them all up in one bucket. Make sure they're all mixed together really well because you want a representative sample of your field. And once it's all mixed together, you can dump it into a bag and send it into your local, wherever your closest soil testing lab is. A lot of universities have them, and a lot of times you can contact your county cooperative extension office. And if you don't have a soil core tester, you can go out with just a trowel, and you'd make sort of one cut into your soil and then another cut right next to it, so you have a slice, and then you'd take just an inch wide of that slice. And same thing, zigzag through your pasture, take 10 to 20 samples and mix them all up. And you'd want to do this for every unit of your farm that is different in some way. So maybe, the back 10 acres you would sample separately from the front acre on a hill, or anything that's really geologically different or managed differently. You'd want to sample separately.
Which, is there a particular time of year that you should sample your soil?
A lot of people like to do their fertilizing in the spring, so that would be a good time, and the fall would also be another good time. As far as taking the soil sample, you can really do that at any time. It's harder to do when the soil is dry. It gets a lot more compacted, so I recommend avoiding doing it when the soil is very dry. And yeah.
That's Laura Kenny. She's been our guest on Let's Talk Horses. Please tune in next week and listen to another edition of Let's Talk Horses.